Hi everyone, it's Cindy from Cindy's Art. Today we're going to do a forest landscape watercolor lesson. I started with Arch's cold press 140-pound paper, and I used a 5x7 sheet and painted just a background with Aurelian yellow, permanent orange light, leaf green, and this gave me the glow I want to see in the background. To add in some easy loose leaf coloring in the background, you're going to see my reference picture pop up, and I'm going to use Brusho by Coulourcraft, a powdered watercolor product, and I'm going to sprinkle bits of that just in portions of my painting, not everywhere. You only want to use a little bit of this. Once I added in some green, a little bit of red, and a little bit of brown, I used a spray bottle and I squirted where I have some of this powder. I didn't get it soaking wet, and what that does is activate that Brusho and it begins to spread. I didn't want my Brusho to spread too far, so I used a rag, dabbed up a little bit extra water, and then I went ahead and I sprayed it down again. And I'm going to use paint in order to add in some of the colors that show up in the painting above. So I'm using a very nice light green. That is a sap green. Sometimes I will use Aurelian green mixed with a little bit of phthalo blue. That gives another beautiful green. You can use green colors out of tubes of paint. That's great, but I also like to see how I can add and create my own paint as well. So using that yellow with some of the darker blues is a great way for me to get these medium tone greens. So as I progress with this picture, what I'm doing is adding a little bit of the darker tones and then the mid tones of the greens. And what I'm doing is giving myself a feel for that back area. How am I going to protect the light where the sun is? And then how am I going to progress and add some of the lighter color greens and the darker ones? So as I begin to move into these tree trunks, if I look at the reference picture, I'm going to find that the tree trunks that go up in the center are super light. So I want to make sure that when I'm adding tree trunks in the center, I'm going to have a darker brown towards the bottom, and then I'm going to lighten it up as it goes up towards that area where the sun is shining through. So I'm just going to move throughout my picture and add in more tree trunks. And I am a light painter. There's times like right now I'll add in a shade, not a very strong black, but I'll add in a watered in black. And I just want to get a feel for where those trees are going to be. Once I settle on it and I feel like I've captured it, I will go back and I will use a very dark black color, and I will add in those tree trunks and make it much stronger. Some of the colors that I'm using to make these dark colors for the tree trunks will include neutral, but I will tend to add in a deep blue, like an ultramarine blue deep, into that blackish tone, as well as a burnt umber or a raw sienna. And there's places where the tree trunks are going to be more brown because they're reflecting the sunlight. So I'm going to use more of a raw sienna and a yellow ochre, and just create a variation of browns in there. So you're going to see me rotate through and create some of these darker shadows and branches. This was a really fun painting to do. And I'm adding in the tree trunks, and then I'm going to work on some of the shadow on the forest floor and also add in some of the leaves. Now, if you're watching my palette up top, I actually am using some blue tones mixed in with this dark green in order for me to create leaves. So I'm adding the blue to highlight more of a cool or shadow. And don't be afraid to try different types of greens. And this is one way that you can do it. So I'm going to add in some dark foliage and where some of the shadows are, and begin to continue to build this up. And then you'll see me add in more of that mid-range green again, so I can highlight it and have it pop out. I'm going to add in some of the red foliage that's here on the bottom, and I used alizarin crimson mixed with a deep orange and mixed those together. Following that, I'm going to use some of my dark greens and start to put in the shadows that are being reflected from the trees. And once I do that, I will be able to look back and see where I need to add in more color. Right now I'm adding a little bit more yellow in around the leaves that are in this sunshine area. It adds great detail. I'm using one of my silver Princeton brushes, about a size number 12. And here I'm mixing some brown tones, and I'll be adding in some of the final branches. As they move closer to the center, they're going to look lighter in color. So I'm going to pull out a variety of colors to add into my tree branches. And this is a great painting. It's going to hide flaws that you might see or I might see. And I love the Brusho because it makes it more creative and abstract. And I'm not worrying about what every leaf where it is and what it's doing. I'm simply just being able to paint these in. And my goal in this painting was for me to be able to try to do a forest picture where there was this glow in the very back, and somehow I could maintain that. And I feel like I succeeded on this. I remember I started with that very light background, and that light background with those yellows, the oranges, and a little bit of browns just helped me understand where the sky was, where the forest floor was. And then I went ahead and I added in some of my basic greens and my yellows just to get a feel from the painting. Then I wound up working into more definition. Right now I'm defining more where these trees are and how dark they are. And like this one that I'm painting right now, you know, when I paint that nice and dark, it's going to move it towards me. And it's going to give my picture more three-dimensional depth, because when the trees are coming closer to me, they're going to be darker because I'm looking out towards the sky. So I want to reflect that in the painting. And I think that tree trunk that I just finished, the thick one on the left, I could have taken it all the way down to the bottom of the painting. That would have been a really neat look too, is to bring that down more. So don't be afraid to try things, even though it might not be in a photo. Do what you want to. Just try different things. If you don't like it, let the painting dry, flip it over and use the back and try it again. Arches watercolor paper, I can use the back of a painting for something like this. This is more abstract. It's not exact. It doesn't look like a photo. I don't need to have a ton of detail and perfection. So it would work well on the back of this paper. There's other papers that might be a cheaper made and it comes out horrible. And guys, a really cheap paper, I don't even know what to tell you, because my paintings come out horrible if I have a cheap piece of paper. And I've tried them just so I could learn what's good and what doesn't work. So I'll highlight some other brands for you in some videos coming up. So you have options. Watch for them on sale. And I buy my paper at Cheap Joe's, and believe it or not, I'm also finding my Arches paper on sale at times on Amazon for a good price. So I'll make sure I list that down there for you. So I've built up my colors. Let me go back to the painting. And I'm at the point where I just need to do a little bit of touch-ups. So I'm going to add in my shadows so I can emphasize those more. I tend to build color instead of being really bold and throwing it on there. Maybe I'll change over time, but I like to take my time and build color up. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to add these shadows in. And then there is this beautiful red tone that's at the base in the middle of the painting. Where the sun is, take where the sun is, go down a little bit towards a horizon line, and there's these red fiery trees. The way that I got that at the very end, I used the red Brusho, and I wet down my paper a tiny bit in there, sprinkled the Brusho in there, and let it finish out. So we are wrapping up for this painting. Please be sure to subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it and gave you value. Would love to have you back for future lessons, and I do have a number of landscapes, quite a few ocean watercolor paintings, and then we've got the fall and Christmas coming up. So thank you to all of my subscribers who join me, and I so appreciate you, your feedback. Don't forget to take the polls in the community page. I want you to see what this painting looks like finished, and I will see you next time.